In this video, we're going to be talking about drags and how to apply them. So I'm going to cover all of these patterns. This is going to take a little bit, but it's important to do so. Now, in number one, we're not really playing a drag per se. We're just playing a grace note on beat 4/ah. That's all you got. I just wanted to set that up for you for exercise number 2, which converts that grace note into a drag. So here's number 1. Remember, your accents are high and loud, grace notes low and soft. And that grace note in number 1 again is on beat 4/ah. So it's a pickup for the following measure. So when we move to exercise number 2, we now switch that grace note and make it a drag. Now, the drag is a combination of a buzz and an accent. And the buzz is typically always on the snare, and the accent that follows is either on a snare or a bass drum. So if you played the drag as a rudiment, you have that buzz, accent. Or if you play the accent as a bass, it sounds like that. And that's what gets used in this particular exercise. So the drag is just, if you look at the end of the drag, which is that bass drum, it gets a hi-hat. So that's if you were playing it as a box. Typically, when I draw a box around that drag on number 2, I will also include the 4 and. If you do that, then you have and R1, and R1, and R1. Let's play from the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and a little faster. Off the ride. Let's move to number 3. So as you can see, we threw the drag in the middle of the measure instead of at the end, and followed it up with another bass drum. Number 4. With number 4, I typically start with the second measure first. And a quick reminder that the whole second column, what I call the B column, is minus all of the drags. So if you ever get stuck as you go through this page, especially from like 4 on, you might want to start out with the second measure or the B column first, and then go to the A column, the first measure, which adds the drag. It's just a lot easier because you get used to the rhythm without the drag, and then you play it again the second or third time with the drag. So with 4, I want to play the second measure first. Now, this is modeled after a very simple exercise in my 8th note beginner rhythms page, which is exercise number 3. On that page, the exercise was on this page, the drag application page, number 4, what we do is we wrap 2 grace notes around that double. So instead of doing this, we do this. So it's the same pattern, we're just adding 2 extra snares as grace notes, wrapping them around those 2 bass drums that are normally played on beats 3 and 3 and. The trick here is playing those grace notes very, very softly. Now, when we go to play the first measure in column A on number 4, it sounds exactly the same, except we have the drag at the end. Let's move on to number 5. What did we add here? We added a drag in the middle of the measure going into beat 3 and kept the one at the end. So if we were to play the second measure, it's going to sound the same as what I did before with number 4, but I'll just start off with number 5. It's going to get 2 drags now, one at the end of the second beat and the other at the end of the 4th beat. This is the exercise on the page that stumps a lot of people, because your left hand has to get used to playing a drag, a buzz rather, on 2 ah, and then just a grace note on 3 E. And that's a little weird. So you have to, in this case, you have to go, and that can be a little strange. So I definitely suggest playing this very slowly at first. If you want to box anything, I would box it at 2 and or 2 ah, and maybe go to beat 4. Okay, 6 is a little weird, so we're going to start out with the second measure on 6. Those bass drums and snares, they definitely move around in the middle of the measure to create the color that I wanted when I wrote this. So it looks hard, and I won't lie, it is, but just go very slowly when you play this for the very first time, and you'll get the hang of it. And then, of course, we'll add drags to it in the first column after we play this. So, second measure, column B, exercise 6. I know that's weird, but that's a very cool pattern, you have to admit. It sounds even better the faster you play it. When you start adding a lot of dynamics, it sounds even better. Okay, so that's the B column. Now I know I made that look and sound very easy, but it is difficult. So again, practice this very slowly at first. Now, what we do in the A column is, of course, adding drags, in this case to the very beginning as a pickup to beat 1, and then again as a pickup to beat 3. So people ask me all the time about the end of the first measure, because it's just a single note played as a grace note on 4 ah. But it's kind of impossible to do the single grace note on 4 ah and play the drag, or rather the buzz, going into beat 1. You can't do both. So what I suggest you do here is practice it both ways. Play it as just the grace note on 4 ah, or replace the 4 ah with the buzz as written at the beginning of the measure. So with it played as just the grace note at the end of the measure, I'll play it again for you. It sounds like this. That drag in by accident at the very end, but I'll make it purposeful here. So now the drag is going to be used at the very end. It's going to replace that for ah. So again, play this very, very slowly. This is one of the more difficult ones on the page, and you will get through it, I promise. All right. Moving on to number 7, last one on the page. It's got 2 drags in there, just like the last couple of exercises. But again, we're going to start out with the second measure first because it's minus all the drags and it's a lot easier. Now, there's a little theme going on here with number 7 because as you can probably tell, it's a single paradiddle rhythm. I use that in the not only the drag application page, but the single paradiddle page and the 5-stroke application page, which we're doing next. So I just happen to apply it to the number 7 each time I wrote the page out. So had a little theme going on there. We already know typically how to play that single paradiddle, so we're going to just play the B column. We're going to add the drags to it by playing column A, the first measure. It's kind of cool, right? I mean, it starts out the same as number 6, but instead of just the rapata in number 6, we have the whole single paradiddle rhythm going on with number 7. Sounds very cool, especially when you play it dynamically. There it is. All 7 exercises on the drag application page.